Hello, and welcome to the 14th episode of the Talos Principle. Last episode we went through level 5 and collected everything there is to get there, even though I wasn't able to revert a save far enough to show collecting this on camera. I still did show how to collect it. Level 6, thankfully, doesn't have as many sigils. In fact, it doesn't even have a star. Level 7 is a bit more busy, with 2 stars and 4 sigils, but here, just 3 sigils. I'm sure... well, that's a bad view. Elohim will have something to say to us, so let's begin.
When you overcome one of my trials, do you not feel the pleasure of having discovered the proper order of things? That is the spark of Elohim within you, to create order from chaos. And therein is revealed the true meaning of our sigils.
Whatever you say, buddy. Another, perhaps not so subtle allusion to the game itself. But if it is about the game, then wouldn't the "we cannot be worthy of Aru unless we walk the path of Osiris" sort of imply that listening to Elohim and putting your faith into him is the best outcome? I'm not sure if, as I've said before, if any of these texts of ancient stuff is actually real or just stuff the writers of the game made up. This one will probably give computer scientists and programmers either a bit of a laugh or many horrible memories of shuffling through hundreds of lines of code and finding out that the reason your program won't work is 2 rinky-dink little symbols. It's interesting that for humans, if there are grammatical or spelling errors in instructions, we're usually able to figure out the original intent and do whatever we need to do with it. But for a program, it needs to be completely perfect. An issue in the problem-solving capabilities, perhaps. Though if you think of computer programming like a machine's DNA, then poor mutations like this would indeed be deleterious. It would be very nice if you can do the conversations with the guy in the chat room or with Milton at the start of the game rather than at the end, because oftentimes I would go through a level and record my commentary for it, and I might think of a better way to say things, or I might stumble over my words a lot, or get stuck in a puzzle for too long, and I just go back to before I even went in the level and start again. But the way the save system works is that it takes you right after you pick up the final sigil in the previous level. So then I'd have to go back, I'd have to talk to Milton or that guy again, and it can get tedious. So that's a complaint about the game. I seek words to describe it, but fail. It is the overwhelming feeling that something on the edge of my understanding is very, very wrong. I feel that I am not meant for this world, but I am not able to conceptualize alternatives. I'm not even going to try to read that out, but the cheeky bastard decided to call himself version 0.0.0666. I'm a computer program You're a computer program. Elohim's a computer program. Get over it. Heisenstein version 60.1. And the last one is a message I left out of the pre-written options you can post that I showed in a previous episode. Two things. First of all, it's kind of interesting that we keep seeing new names crop up every so often. They leave one message and that's it. They're gone. Does that imply that they started here late? This might be where they first spawned, just as we spawned very early on in that Roman area? Or did they just get through everything and not have anything to say? And as for Elohim being a computer program, well, as Arthur C. Clarke said, it may not be mankind's purpose to worship God, but instead to create him. What's more pathetic? This shallow construct of a world, this idiot's playground, or that I continue to solve its contrivances for lack of a better sport? Dog. There's more to it. Look at what we're doing. We're solving problems, being tested, improving ourselves. Some of us fall early and get replaced, but you and me, we're still going. We're closer to the end. Sheep version 69. There's some familiar faces. Another one of those levels that I am not too proud to admit I needed to look up the answer to when I first went through. This is the hard part. So if I'm not as talkative as I usually am with these discussions, it's because I'm really trying to concentrate on not getting blown up by these a-hole orbs. So Immortality, it's an interesting way to start off a discussion, but might as well start it off. A lot of people want it. In fact, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why religion is still a thing in the world. The prospect of the endless void of death itself. Not exactly a very fun one. But a lot of people would actually object to immortality for this life, for right here and right now. Get out of here and never come back. In fact, some theists would even object to making ourselves immortal on this world, probably under the belief that we'll go to a paradise, and who wants to go to this crapsack planet or stay on this crapsack planet when you can be in heaven doing whatever people in heaven are supposed to do. Probably worshipping for all eternity. But if that's what they like to do, then so be it. One of the most common objections, I think probably the weakest, is just, wouldn't you get bored? Why would you want to live forever if there's a prospect of extreme boredom? Well, I get bored in this life quite often. Sometimes not even for a lack of things to do, just because I don't necessarily feel like doing anything that is available for me to do. And yet I wouldn't exactly say this life is wasted or I don't desire to be alive, simply because occasionally I get bored. There are plenty other reasons not to want to be alive. this is an interesting puzzle. It's actually better to work backwards. Rather than work like source to gate, work gate to source. Solves that issue, but so I think, oh, there we go. I was getting a bit worried there. Thought I might have missed one. And then once you do that, it's just as simple as 1, 2, 3. So I have plenty of other reasons not to want to be alive than just sheer boredom. And honestly, even being bored for all of eternity, at least you're still thinking, and you can probably come up with your own sources of amusement. Another objection is overpopulation, quite simply. If there's so many of us, what am I doing? If there's all these people walking around on Earth for all of eternity, then what does that mean for sustainability? There's certainly not enough there's not even enough resources for 7+ billion of us at the rate we're consuming right now. How many billions will we eventually spawn and just be unable to account for? And though that is a fair criticism, I think that it can be mostly solved by just good sustainability practices and better technology. Also, the fact is that the better the technology and the quality of life for a place, the less children people have. Japan, for example, ranks #1 on quite a few tests concerning quality of life, including just overall health of the population, and they're facing a population decline. People aren't going out and having children there as much as they should in order to keep a stable population. Meanwhile, the shitholes of the planet, or even just the less technologically advanced, such as the rural southern areas of the US, those places have, the people there have more children than they would otherwise. The birth of the nuclear family, father's, mother, and 2.5 children, I think, sort of really boomed out in the 50s, and that was also when there was another major surge of technological progress and overall quality of life. Things that we might take for granted, like the refrigerator, or just technology becoming more and more miniaturized. It just no longer seemed like a very reasonable decision to have 6, 7, 8, 10 children like you would have in the 19th century. So I'm not necessarily worried about overpopulation, and of course I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't be sticking around on Earth for all time. Earth has an end. Eventually the sun will die out and expand and consume it. What's the point of immortality if you die in a fiery blaze? So we will have to become an extraterrestrial species. Just the few objections raised to the concept of becoming immortal that I've heard. I'd rather not go on and on about any more right now, simply because there's not exactly a lot to do right now. Usually when I'm running around and jumping mindlessly like this in circles, it's simply because the current conversation has exceeded the time needed to do these sigil puzzles, and there are quite a few emphasis on a few of these. So let's have a conversation that I'll probably have to do over and over off camera when the next episode is filmed. Well, here he is again. How wonderful. I'd rather not delay this mystery any longer. Just tell me what the word is. Let's get on with it. At least it's a little bit more convenient. But now we have to put up with Milton. There was a problem with your request, Administrator. It was flat out unreasonable. Why persist with these inquiries when they are so hopeless? I'll tell you what, if you promise to never access the communications portal again, we'll say no more about it. We agreed? Oh, not a chance. This might be the first person we come across who isn't a sassy AI. I could probably learn a little bit about the world with him. Not only will your communications access be restricted, but your typing privileges will be totally revoked. Do you have any final words? I don't even think you have the balls to do it, pal. I just gave you 2 separate opportunities to use a code word, but code word you were given under increasing pressure, but you refrained both times. Tell me honestly, why? Well, in the previous session, the guy mentioned that it has something to do with the whole of the computer program and not just your little temper tantrum there. So I didn't feel it was especially necessary. Oh, isn't that lightning? Let me guess, you think I can't trust anything? But who says I bought into the secret word? There was no option to say I'm pretty sure that it was bullshit. Change in formatting indeed. This guy did try to make it seem like an intelligence, like a human was typing with some of the messages starting in lowercase, and there were even a spelling error or 2 in previous ones. You have one free question on me. and I'll answer it as honestly as I possibly can, no tricks. Well, I already know you're lying, conniving asshole, so this question is clearly answered, if it is even at all. If I'm not able to trust anything here, then how can I trust you to say that the guy on the other end of the terminal wasn't real and you just shut him off and are trying to claim you're him? But I'd rather not spend an eternity with you. How do I get out of here? Spaghetti Monster 2. Nice little reference to the flying spaghetti monster. Made-up god, though perhaps that's a bit redundant, used to illustrate the absurdity of teaching intelligent design in schools, or creationism. We're going to devote time to teaching how Yahweh, or Elohim, made humans in just the way they are, then I also demand equal time for this silliness. Wanna enjoy the company you're with for supposedly all the time here, but Milton's a jerk. That just leaves episode 7, and it's 2 stars and 4 sigils. Once we collect those sigils though, we'll be able to unlock the new asset. And it's interesting, we still don't know what the red sigils are for. They seem entirely optional at the moment. We don't need them to get to a new area, and we don't need them in order to unlock any mechanics or assets. They just sit uselessly in our HUD up there, having collected 20 so far. How many more will we collect? Well, we'll find that out in probably the episode after the next, assuming all goes well with this one. But that concludes this episode of the Talos Principle. I hope I made you think a little bit and gave you something interesting to mull over. Otherwise, just enjoy the episode in general. Next time we will go through level 7 and see what there is to, what challenges await, what conversations with Milton we'll have to groan through, and how many times I'll have to reset and have to do the conversation in Area 6 again.